Wednesday Wisdom series. We have a special Valentine's Day edition, which is all about company culture and loving where you work. I'm here today with Gaby Jordan, who's the CEO of Source Elements Group and also the president and founder of Human Better EDU. The work that she does, she is thrilled to empower executives and their teams to align cultures and build successful businesses, which produce exponential results. Simultaneously, she has a passion for empowering parents, students, administrators, and faculty across all levels of education that stems from her own commitment to education and students thriving. She has also been practicing law for 15 years as a commercial civil litigator, and she has turned her attention to the business world and then executive coaching and education. And as an executive life coach, Gaby has trained individuals and teams for over 25 years, and she has served as executive vice president for a major executive and life coaching company from 2006 to 2022, where she's coached executives, managers, and entrepreneurs in major companies while also running the education division of that company. Needless to say, she has a ton of experience in helping cultures do better and accomplish more when they are aligned. And I'm happy to have her on here today.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So delighted to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I dived a little bit into some of your history that you had sent over to me, but tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to sort of go down the paths that you have gone down.
So in my history, so I was a commercial civil litigator for 15 years, and I did that, and I practiced law, and it was great. It's unusual that in the corporate civil law, you actually have 8 trials like in that period of time. So that's a lot, which is great and wonderful experience. And from there, I moved into the business world where I was running direct marketing programs. I knew nothing about direct marketing, but it was in fact the way the company was structured and the fact that people really paid attention to happy people produce happy results. And that the through thread in sort of the unusual law firm I was with, then into that led me perfectly into executive coaching. And really, my passion is really having people be happy about what they do because I know they're more effective when they do that. And what led me into being an entrepreneur was really being able to determine my fate, if you will, right? Really being able to get something out into the world in a way that I wanted to get it out into the world. And so that's, the trajectory of that really supported moving into this direction in the business world, right? So because when I was in the law firm, I wasn't really running programming and paying attention to P&Ls, and then when I did that in the business world, that sort of added to my panoply of experience to be able to really support companies and individuals in getting what they want to do. So that's
And so when you saw those two things, you had the civil litigator roles that you were working in, and then being able to look at the P&Ls, and was there like a connection that you saw between how people showed up and then
I will say at the time, full disclosure, I didn't see that. But one of the things that I really do know, and I say this for anyone who's out there, like whatever you're doing is useful relative to what you're going to do and what you want to create. So all of those experiences that you have in life really lead you to, what's next for you and can be used in what's next for you. And it's funny because as a lawyer, where after I finished practicing law and after I was in the direct marketing, and I had people who wanted to use me as a consultant relative to what they were doing legally, right? So in the business world, and I said, it's great, but you don't really need me for that. Oh, no, we feel more comfortable, right? And so what the experience they gained as a lawyer gave me confidence in certain areas that people don't typically have. And so it's incredibly useful. And then recognizing the inner workings of what happens, with the P&L and the accountability for that really did support me in the world that I'm in now. And the fact that, when you're a lawyer and when you're a litigator, you learn about all sorts of different types of businesses. And so that supports you also in the experience you had at what you can offer to clients. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea that you're just sort of collecting all the different tools and resources and perspectives that you're going to need. Excuse me. to be able to bring things out into the world the way that you want them, which is the one thing that I love about, being an entrepreneur and being a business owner, is being able to bring forth something the way that you envision it, the way that you see it, and from your unique perspective. So that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about what were some of the early challenges that you faced in sort of getting to this place that you are now.
Where do I start?
Well, I guess let's start with the one that sort of altered the trajectory, that made you realize, like, oh, okay, now I'm clear on the problem that I want to solve in the world. What is
Well,
it?
it's interesting. The focus that I do now, and I will say that I do this in the business world, but I also do it in the world of education. So as you mentioned, I ran the education division for an executive and life coaching company, and in that company, what we did and what I continue to do is to empower students and anybody that impacts students. One of the connection there, and the work that I do in companies is very similar to the work that I do in education, because other than the teaching of the students, working in the organization of educations is like working in the organization of a company. In fact, where I am today is in Kansas, working at a university, doing the very same thing that we do in businesses, which is being able to have people communicate in a way that accelerates their trajectory. One of the things that's really been missing in companies, or it's missing in a lot of companies, is really being able to communicate in a way that supports what they're trying to do. Sometimes people, sometimes the thing that is missing so is the communication, not necessarily the talent, the skills, the caring of the product or the service that you have. And so one of the things that I see is the making sure that the teams are in sync. It makes such a difference to where they go, where they end up. And the work that we've done over the years has had an exponential impact, positive impact on getting teams to succeed. And that the same thing is true in education, right? It just happens to be a different product. So one of the things that was really key for me was being able to make sure that communication with organizations and teams is intact. And that is something that I wanted to really attend to and that I really care about. We have one of the things that we bring is that we say that the executive teams crush results when you move the team dynamic from we to me. And that is really about accountability. And that is really about getting the individual to be able to see who they are in the matter of the success of the company. And so that's one of the challenges that I really wanted to address.
Yeah. So that's a great point. Because I know that excuse me, in talking to other business owners and some of the things that I read online, it seems like there's such a negative impact in the culture in terms of getting people to take responsibility and to take that initiative and see that it's not like, yeah, you're an integral part of this organization, and how you show up makes a difference in what people are able to accomplish. So how are you addressing that? Like, what do you like, if somebody's watching this, I'm sure they're asking that question: how do I get my team to care more and take more responsibility and initiative?
And I will tell you that Harvard Business Review just published, the 9 trends for 2024, and one of them is the ability to do conflict resolution.
Yes.
So you're right on track relative to where people need to be paying attention to, and so I'm delighted that that's the work that we do.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do is to have people actually see that their own responsibility, who they are, right? Making sure that people get that they need to be connected to what they are committed to. They need to be connected to a vision. They're even their own. And in many areas of life where they might not be as satisfied as they could be. So getting people happy in their own lives makes a difference in how they show up in the office. So one thing is really caring about the people. So that's the one thing. So if you're saying, what should business owners do? So one, you want to care about the people. And it's not, they're not just there for a paycheck. And the more that people think that, oh, they're there for a paycheck, the more they discount who they are as human beings. And we don't necessarily pay attention to that. And once you start get people starting to connect to the things that they really want, then there's the opportunity to see, okay, how does that lead to the whole? Because what happens is that sometimes when people are not particularly happy, or they're not happy with their teammates, if you will, they will say, okay, well, I'm just going to do my job and I'm going to focus on here, not recognizing the impact of not being connected to the rest of the team, not recognizing the impact of, if they care about the rest of the team, they actually can be more effective in what they're doing as a team. So individual responsibility, and then being able to see how it connects into the team and actually caring. So really getting people to care, not surface level, but because you care about individuals, because the happier your people are, and the happier they're going to be in really causing new results for you in the company or organization.
Yeah, so that just reminded me of that whole I remember quiet quitting was a huge phrase in 2023. But hearing what you just said in terms of, when people are happy, in their life or outside of their life, they're able to bring so much more to, how they work. And if the boss, the executives, they care about the employees, they'll be able to have them connected to the overall mission, the vision, and being connected to their coworkers. And so it just brought up this thought of quiet quitting is really like a way of self-protection, is connecting to protect oneself from, I don't know, maybe getting taken advantage of, or feeling like they can't really, work or fulfill themselves in the way that they want.
Right.
Is that sort of what you were kind of pointing to?
So there is people paying attention to what they want, but also I will say it's not, typically you would think in the business world that it's just about what they're doing in the organization, but it's also them individually. So they can't pretend that they themselves don't matter, that they don't matter about their health, that they're the way they take care of themselves, their exercise, their mental stability, their ease and calm. All of that is a factor. And so one of the things that's important for people is to recognize who they are as a whole individual, because it is that also that gives them sustenance, if you will, relative to the work that they're doing.
Yeah. So they have to find fulfillment in who they are and then bring that to the job, as opposed to going to the job to bring that fulfillment in who they are.
Right. And be happy.
Yeah.
So when I say happy, I don't mean Instagram happy, right? I mean happy like
yeah, there's a lot of that.
And there's a lot of that, right? And there's a lot of that, which is a distraction, which pulls you away from, what you care about, but just proud of themselves. So happy in terms of satisfied, proud of themselves, proud of what they're doing, even if they haven't accomplished it yet, that they are on the right road to knowing that they are someone who they want to be proud of, and that that's who they're bringing to their colleagues. So they're not hiding a piece of themselves because they're embarrassed by it. But in fact, that they can bring their full selves to whatever they're out to accomplish.
Yeah. So how would a business leader go about fostering the kind of environment where that's possible?
Asking questions about the individual. Like, obviously we're not trying to be intrusive, right? So you've got to have permission to do that, but making sure that if they also see something, or they see that somebody's not really happy, that you inquire about it, that people know that you care. That makes a huge difference. And then I'll say, so because I started by saying that there's what's happening on an individual level and then a group level, and it's also facilitating any kind of conflict resolution.
Yeah.
So one of the important things about what we do is that we actually look at what's it going to take to resolve that conflict. So actually give people a framework on how to have those conversations. I actually call them champion conversations.
Nice. Okay.
Because it really takes something to get over your fear of, I don't want it to get messy. I don't want to interfere. I don't want them to think that, it's none of my business. all of those things, but actually giving a framework and how to actually have those conversations so that you can move towards resolution. Because it's not like, okay, we just want happy people running around. That's awesome. Yay. But then there's also good. Now anytime you have more than two people or even just two people in a situation together, you have the opportunity for conflict. And unless you know how to resolve it, right, and not confrontationally, but resolve it in a way that you really are designing towards a better future, right, a better outcome, when you do that, that actually it enables you to have a better result.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many people, I mean, just in general, who are not good at conflict resolution. They avoid it at any, possible turn. So that definitely translates into the workplace, where I think more people are just kind of uh, satisfied to just, hey, let's, ignore it, kind of sweep it under the rug, and we'll pretend that we're a big happy family when it comes time for picture day or or the time to take the new headshots. And it's like, yeah, there are toxic families out there too,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely true. Definitely true. Right. And then the thing that I would encourage people is that they might not be successful the first time. It might be a little bit messy getting there, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
You have to remember what the goal at the end of the day is, and it really is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like anything else, it's a skill, right? It's something that you have to practice. A lot of us weren't taught conflict resolution. We certainly weren't taught conflict resolution in a workplace. And so um, yeah, I think it's important people understand that it's a skill, it's a practice, it's something that you can actually learn how to do, even if you've been bad at it historically.
And the thing that I would also say is that not to be afraid of, oh, I have a difference of opinion and therefore I'm out of luck, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the end of it. I mean, I will say, as a personality trait, and one of the things that we do when we work with people is have them look at their personality traits and to see what serves them and what doesn't serve them and see what gets in their way. So full disclosure, I am one of those people who in the first instance, like, okay, if I can't make a difference, then I'm out of here, right? Like that was a thing that I had to sort of, get over, like the being out of my poor husband, like I would say, like, all right, and then he said at some point, when we've been married now for almost 30 years, but at some point he had to say, okay, I had to like, la, 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 she's just doing her thing. Don't even worry about that. But so I will tell you, it's not like I'm perfect. And so I understand where people are coming from and wanting to give up and wanting to not bother. And then the thing to know is you may have certain reactions. You're not stuck with those reactions. You don't need to stay in that. You can get off the train. That is really good news that, we think that well, I had this thought that must be true, right? Not the case, right? So we teach people how to distinguish between their unhelpful beliefs and theories and personality traits that get in their way so that they can get off the train and get on the train they want to be on.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Like you're not stuck with the thought that you think. Actually get off that. Think something else.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You really can. It's like, a miracle. Oh, I don't have to get on the train to Philadelphia if I'm going to Washington. Nah, get off the train.
Yeah, I could actually do something different, right? I don't
Right.
have to do what's always been done.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, so in terms of just, so how do you personally go about doing this growth, right? Like you're teaching this to other people, you're helping other people discover it. And I've always maintained in certain programs in personal development that I've done, like there is no top to the mountain in terms of improving yourself and developing yourself. So what are some things that you put in practice that you would recommend for a business leader or even, somebody who's an employee of a company who's looking to develop themselves? What's something that you would recommend?
So one of the things I say is you always want to be learning, right? I'm in the midst of a number of different programs right now where I'm getting new approaches, new theories, new learnings relative. I call it my graduate executive education that I'm currently doing. And seeing what's out there, whether it's reading books or whether it is taking programs, or now there's so much available that's online. You can really, look at in terms of what you care about, right? So I would say start with the things that you really care about in developing yourself and keep going from there. One thing may lead you to another. Somebody will recommend something else. And so I really do care about learning, which is a good thing given that I'm in education. But that's that's what I do, right? I read, or audiobooks, these days, given that you can multitask in that way. I'm not advocating multitasking, but that is a useful way to keep learning, and then do programs that you're interested in, and look to see where you feel like you could expand your skill and start investigating that, looking at that and seeing what's there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is there any particular book or audiobook or podcast or something that you recommend right now?
There are many.
Mhm.
It depends. So in the area of personal finance,
Okay.
some that I would recommend is Rachel Rogers. She has a great book, that, my daughter actually recommended to me. Uh,
Hold on.
hold on, you may have it.
This one?
That's that one.
Nice.
Nice with the props, and we didn't even prepare. So there's also the culture code, given that I'm talking about culture. And there, just exploring. So, so Rachel Rogers, I definitely recommend. She's got, not only does she have that book, but she's also got podcast. She's got audio original, which I just listened to. So that's in the area of personal finance. Then I would also say that, yeah, let me just stop there for the moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's pull on that personal finance thread. Why is personal finance an important component for, let's say, for an employee to have a handle on before they go into a company?
Well, first of all, you want to see what you need,
Mhm.
right? You want to be, and I don't know whether it's before they go into a company, but I think it's something that they shouldn't ignore. Okay,
Yeah.
even when they're in a company, right? Or they could be, because they're also like, you don't have all these people out there. Well, we have a lot of people who are looking for a job. It's like, it's not one thing and then the other, but it's just something to pay attention to, what your particular needs are, where you want to go, what you want to create, and then enabling yourself with whatever you need to get there. So they're just, certain consciousness, I'll say, because that's what we do. In the work that we do, it's really about elevating what is beneath the surface, right? So I will give you another book recommendation. There's a professor at the University of Virginia who wrote a book called Strangers to Ourselves. And one of the things that he talks about is the fact that we our thinking occurs on two levels, the conscious and the subconscious. And on a conscious level, you can only take in about 40 data points. And on a subconscious level, you take in 11 million. So you want to get yeah. And then studies have shown that 80% of our thinking is negative. Imagine 80% of our thinking is negative on a subconscious level, right? So we don't even know the thoughts that we're thinking.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go to Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink, and he talks about this dating study where over 90% of the people, they having filled out, what they wanted in a partner, and they go on the speed dating thing, and the people they wind up with have nothing to do with what they wrote on the list. So it just demonstrates that we don't even know what we're thinking. Anyway, how does that relate to finance? Getting very clear about what's under the surface and what's driving you and what your needs are makes a difference in how you show up. And so the idea about personal finance is, what do you want? What do you need? What's valuable for you? And being willing to look at it, because often we just don't look, right? It could be a reaction from our childhood that, we had a parent who was a spendthrift, right? We're going the opposite direction. We're not going to care. Or we're so structured that we have no freedom around it. So getting a sense of what you want and putting in steps to get you there, not being restrictive, not be, Rachel Rogers is a big advocate of not, like, don't not have a latte in order to be able to do the things you want. Like, that's her.
Yeah.
dig elsewhere. But the point is just getting conscious of things you want and being willing to dream, which is another thing we advocate, and being willing to see where you want to go. Even practicing in that area will support you in other areas. One of the things is you get good and care about a particular area of your life, and you put in consistency for yourself and start to have wins there, you'll start to expand it elsewhere. So for example, you could start in finance, start to, make some guidelines for yourself about what you're actually going to do or not do, start having success. And then you say, oh, maybe I can do that with my health or vice versa. Right. So it's using small steps to actually get you where you want to go so that you get proud of yourself, so that you start to recognize, oh, I can do that in another area. And that builds your resilience and strength as an individual so that you can then contribute on a larger scale, whether it's in your family or whether it's in your business.
Yeah, that is, man, everything you said there is so brilliant. Because people really have not spent enough time getting to know themselves. They are like strangers to themselves. And, they haven't taken that time to create a vision for what it is they want with their life. And so they sort of find themselves following somebody else's playbook. I've been talking about this a lot with a couple of other business owners recently in terms of, we all just seem to be following some program, some script that's been laid out for us. We don't know who wrote it. We don't know why we're following it. We just know that, a lot of people just know they're not happy with, the way that their lives are going, whether it's in their jobs, their finances, their personal relationships. And so they haven't taken that time to really dig in and discover, like, well,
Yes.
who am I? Right. And yes, I need a job in order to pay bills and do all these other things. But, if I don't know who I am, then I don't know how this job fits into what I want the overall narrative of my life to be. Right. And that's not to say that, every job has to be like your big fulfilling passion, all this other stuff. But it does make sense in order to sort of understand how that job fits into the life, right? It may not be the thing that you ultimately want to do, but you can see how the things that you will learn, the people that you will meet in that job can lead you to the things that you really want. But first, you got to know where you want to go and who you are.
Right. And then you said something that about people who are just unhappy, or they find that they're, so I would also say there is another tool that they can do. They should actually probably do what we call a brain dump.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that is making them unhappy on a piece of paper, and then be able to look at it rather than have a obsess in here. Because when you obsess in here, it just grows. Like one of my,
this is a
friends.
terrible neighborhood. Terrible neighborhood.
Terrible neighborhood.
Yeah.
Terrible neighborhood. I have a friend who says, like, in the dark, it grows like mold in Florida. So,
I used to tell people this is like Newark, Camden, and all enrolled in.
right. Yes. Right. Exactly. And so getting it out on a piece of paper so they can actually look at it and start to look, okay, where can I do something about it? Where am I just full of it to myself? Where am I being lazy? Where am I just being scared? That's a way to actually enable you to take accountability, to take the actions that you care about, and to see, where do I need to focus?
Yeah. That just, so I was just thinking, do executives do this a lot? Do business leaders, do you work with them to do this kind of work before bringing it out
Absolutely.
to the full company?
Oh, sure. So I do, executive life coaching, and we have both of those titles in there because it's not just about the work, but it is about the life, for the very reasons that we talked about. And so the work that I do is both on an individual level with executive as well as group work. And often we start with executives before we get to the group, because we want them to start to look at themselves and then be models for their teams, right? And be able to lead the way, because they're leaders after all, right? And that's the point, right? So working with individuals to have them be able to see where in their lives they need to up level, right? So really up level those results, or up level their operating system. That's an important part of the work that we do. So even when we do group work, so sometimes we'll work with people before we start, and then we'll do the group, and then we'll continue to do the work. But it's, leading a workshop and then doing a continuation, making sure that the things that they've created are actually getting fulfilled, right? And so that they're not. So for sure, yes, absolutely, working with the executives, CEOs, C-level, executives that have teams. That's all.
Yeah, that's so incredibly important, and I thank you for doing that work because I've had a couple of bad bosses, and
Yes.
um, actually, let me correct that. Not I don't want to say bad bosses, but because as someone who has had employees myself, I realized that a lot of the sort of unhealed, unexamined trauma and thought patterns and behaviors, things that I didn't see is what created the culture and what actually created the business as
Yes.
opposed to doing it from a conscious place. So, um, I want to sort of rescind calling them bad bosses because
Yeah.
I realize now that people are just running around with the things that maybe they haven't looked at, the things they haven't examined, the things they haven't addressed, and oftentimes that ends up becoming the default culture, unintended, but that's what ends up being there. And so now it's just this person's unexamined stuff interacting with this person's unexamined stuff, and somehow you're trying to build a business and make money and serve customers who are also dealing with their unexamined stuff.
Exactly. I mean, the thing about it is we are all human beings. And when
Yeah.
we recognize that we are all part of an ecosystem and that we actually can shift something, we don't have to, point the finger over there, cast aspersions, not necessary, right?
Right.
People are on their own journey. And then who are we in the matter to support them on whatever they're dealing with? And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes you need to separate. It's not the right environment. I was married before my current marriage a long time ago. And I went to my whole family and I went to my ex-husband's 50th. And
Nice.
I did one of the toasts. And I said, sometimes great people just shouldn't be married to each other.
Mm.
And I believe that, right? And I have a great relationship with my ex-husband. One of the things I didn't say is I'm also a singer. And so I have a couple of CDs, and my ex-husband is actually doing the music for my current CD. And I'm coaching
Amazing.
in his life, and it was his idea, right? So that
Nice.
just goes to show what I believe is possible in relationships, right? So, um, you know, back to sometimes you do need to separate from a job that doesn't work for you. Sometimes that dynamic is not something that can be altered. I am an advocate that you can alter anything, but you're not in a place and time and space. They're not. And then sometimes you got to go. And
Yeah.
that's also not bad. It just is what you've chosen in the moment.
Yeah, it might suck in a moment, it might hurt, it might be disappointing, but
Right.
yeah, sometimes you need that separation in order to grow into the kind of people that can actually, all those things that were great that initially drew you together. Um, Now it can actually, flourish. It's in the right environment. The soil, if you will, has the right nutrients now because of that separation.
Yes.
So, what's the vision that you have for the future of the company and the kind of impact that you want to make, especially in light of everything that sort of happened in the last couple of years with there's a big push for returning to the office, and then there's a big pull to want to stay working remotely to have more of that balance in life. What's the vision that you kind of see?
I think that, we are as a culture, multiple cultures evolving. And so my vision for what we provide for organizations is really that they flourish in being conscious about creating their dream and going after it, their vision and going after it, and being uh, up leveling on Valentine's Day, the heart, right? So that organizations bring heart. And it is not that I'm saying don't have the bottom line in mind, not at all. But they're going to be more effective when they incorporate the caring part of it.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of the company, my vision is really to have companies and entities exponentially expand as a result of their elevating their operating system, they're elevating their culture in order to have the consistency between what their vision is and the reality of that.
Yeah, it's such a great point. I don't know if you have this information, but is there any place to find data, however you want to pronounce it, in terms of sort of heart-led cultures, business cultures versus those that are just focused on the bottom line?
I don't have a citation to provide right now, but there is research out there on that. I mean, there are studies out there that demonstrate that as well. And so I'm sure that ChatGPT could help us out on that. But in any event, no, I will just tell you what we've seen in
Yes.
terms of, I mean, an example, a colleague and I went in to do work at a $2 billion company and elevated by 25% in 3 months the results of the company as a result of them just starting to pay attention and stop being in silos. So that's an example of the fact that it does impact the bottom line.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, business owners, pay attention.
Yes, exactly. And it's and other instances where 25% increase in sales and we weren't working on their sales. That was another example,
That was
right?
just a natural byproduct of just
Yes.
People starting to care about each other, people starting to not act in silos, but work together, depending on, in what realm one wants to go.
Yeah.
There's sort of a universality to what comes in as a result, for you just leading from a different space.
Yeah, 100%.
Not a
I
conflicted space, but one that's, expansive.
open, yeah, that's open, that's expansive, that's yeah. I think I said this on Tina's summit last Saturday. It was like why you do what you do impacts, how you do it. So, you and your team doing the work to help people get really connected to their hearts again, right? Get connected to their passion, their purpose, their vision for their lives, how their work, plays a part in that. Really has a dramatic financial impact on how they do their work and how they're able to contribute to the business.
Absolutely. And one of the things in sort of demonstrating a human operating framework, human operating system framework. And one of the things that we say, yeah, there's what you do, there's what you don't do, and most importantly, the how. And so
Yeah.
tying the why to the how is huge, right? Because it impacts, you being conscious and not doing things on a surface level, but because you care and there's what you're committed to is huge.
So what's the kind of legacy that you hope to leave with your business, the work you're doing, and what impact do you want to have on just the industry community as a whole?
So certainly, and as you know, I work in two realms, right? They're connected, but more specific. So the nonprofit that I have, which is in the world of education, where we've worked at over 75 different universities around the world, universities and institutions of learning, and kindergarten through deans, right? All the same work. And then likewise in the business world. So I really, my vision for impact in the world is elevating people's consciousness so that they can really go after what they want. And then having people recognize that this is key and that these skills that, executives get often, if they're lucky, at a later point in life can be taught. We can teach, they can be taught to 5 and 6-year-olds, which we have done, by the way. Okay.
Nice.
So ultimately, the legacy is that these skills get taught in traditional education so that we can empower students to go out and have a huge impact on the world. And then likewise, in the world of business, having leaders recognize and care about their people and knowing that their people caring about one another and being able to communicate with one another is the path to nirvana, not only personal nirvana, but their success,
Yeah.
that it's their success, the road to their success, and impacting, thousands of businesses.
And that-
That's amazing. Yeah, man, I definitely hope that that legacy gets fulfilled. And I have no doubt that strides will definitely be made towards that. We are definitely in a special time in our society where I think that's really what people are hungering for. And I hope that they understand that this is what's wanted, this is what's needed, and that this will get fulfilled. And so, if a company wants to work with you, a business leader wants to work with you, what should they do?
They should get in touch. So they can reach me at gaby@source-elementsgroup.com. And I'm happy to chat, happy to see what there is that can be valuable for them or what we can provide.
Awesome. They'll get that consultation and be able to see like, hey, what's possible, what's help them diagnose what they're not doing in their business and what could be missing, and then they can actually go forth and sort of see how your programs can work with them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. All right. And then I know I said my other question was the final question. This is actually my final question, which is, as our conversation comes to a close, what's one piece of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with? It doesn't have to be related to business. It could just be in general, but just some piece of wisdom from Gaby.
Be willing to go out and dream. Be willing to actually look at what you really want and start taking action where that's leading the way.
Oh, awesome. Gaby, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you, anybody that's watching this. Thank you for joining the Wednesday Wisdom series. I will see you here next week. Take care.
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you for doing this. It's really great.